A man who has taken in his late wife's son as his own travels far and wide one day to purchase a birthday present for the boy. Because of fate, he meets the boy's exact double and makes a devastating realization. When my wife Merlin passed away from cancer 2 years ago, it completely devastated me. I would sit sobbing by her grave for hours at a time. Having Scott, Merlin's son from a previous relationship, was the only thing that gave me hope again. So I took him in as my own, thinking the world of that little boy. My mother took care of Scott for 2 months before his 8th birthday while I was out of town. It was his birthday and I had to be somewhere else, but I wanted to surprise him with a nice gift. In retrospect, I should have known better to expect to run into his exact duplicate there, but alas, I did. I'll never forget that cool night when I hurriedly stored the bike I bought for Scott in the trunk of my car and ducked into a cafe to warm up with a chocolatey drink. Sitting by the window, I happened to notice a young boy around Scott's age. Sipping my drink, I continued to watch the boy intently. He had a bucket and a piece of worn, tattered clothing in his hand. "Good job, young man." I heaved a sigh and got to my feet to leave. The youngster called out to me as I got close to my vehicle. "Excuse me, sir, but I'd like to offer to wash your car for $3. Even if they are treated differently, children born with disabilities can lead fulfilling lives. Not only are they not the same as everyone else, but they also do not deserve to be abandoned." After turning around, I was taken aback by what I saw. I couldn't figure out how, but the boy looked exactly like my son Scott. Actually, I got the creeps. The youngster took my lack of response as a confirmation and hobbled to my vehicle. Before I saw him hobble, I had no idea he was disabled. Still in shock, I watched as he started cleaning my car with the cloth. My curiosity about him led me to pursue this avenue of inquiry. "How do I address you? What's the point of doing car washing in this area?" It was a question I posed to him. "Hello, my name is Eric and I help out at home by washing cars so that mommy can have a little more time to herself. As a result, she has been forced to stay in her house and rest." "I see. Hi, I'm Matthew. It's a pleasure to meet you, Eric. The question is, where do you call home?" I offered him a ride and a $3 bill and he accepted. Nonetheless, my true intent was to learn the cause of his striking resemblance to Scott. When I arrived at his house, he welcomed me in and introduced me to his mother. Her name, I was told, was Amanda. "Excuse me, Amanda. The town I currently reside in is not my hometown. What brought me here was..." When I saw that she was having trouble standing, I stopped. "I hope everything is okay. Do you want me to assist you?" When Amanda realized what had happened, she was taken aback. "Apologies for asking, but do I know you?" was her question. We were just outside the cafe chatting when I mentioned that I had recently met Eric. It seemed she was completely unaware that her son was washing cars for cash. He said he was going out to hang out with his pals. "Excuse me, but did he smash anything? Your car seems to have been damaged, right?" "Not at all, not at all. But the reason I'm here is because your son Eric looks just like my son Scott." My confusion grew quickly. I pulled up a picture of Scott for her to see on my phone. Amanda's face had turned white at this point. She explained that she and her husband Davis adopted Eric from a shelter when he was a baby, making him their son 6 years ago. My husband passed away in a car crash 3 months ago. Since then, everything has been a struggle for me. For the time being, I am unable to work due to my health condition. My mom comes to visit us frequently and always brings cash to help us out with bills like food and medicine. The truth was outed by her. While I did feel bad for Amanda, I was more interested in learning about Eric's background at the time. So I got in my car and drove to the shelter she had mentioned. And there I learned that a nurse had given newborn Eric away. Just what was Merlin told me, that the nurse who delivered Scott worked at the hospital where I gave birth. I had a feeling that something wasn't right, so I went to meet the woman, only to find out that my wife had been lying to me the whole time. "Can you identify this lady?" I showed the nurse a picture of Merlin and asked. However, she denied the fact. "My name is from the police department, and I came here to ask about this lady. In other words, are you familiar with her?" Again, I asked while lying smack. Unfortunately, I was trapped. I had to grind her into telling the truth. Her eyes widened with alarm as I watched it grow in intensity. She drank a glass of water and spilled the beans on a long-buried secret about my wife. This really shook me up. While I am familiar with her, I am unable to provide her proper name. 8 years ago, she was only 18 when she gave birth to twins here, the woman declared. Twins? Panic set in. Yes, she told me her boyfriend broke up with her because he found out one of the twins would be born with a disability. Having been abandoned by her parents, she had nowhere to turn for help. She begged me to take the baby boy who had a leg defect and give him to a shelter. After initially saying no, I gave in after she started crying. This news completely devastated me. When the woman didn't respond to my questions or comments, I left. It broke my heart like you wouldn't believe. My beloved wife of 8 years had been keeping her other son's existence a secret from me. A certain rough patch in her previous relationship was discussed, but the fact that she was carrying twins was never mentioned. Even more devastating was her apparent lack of remorse for abandoning her disabled son. I couldn't leave Eric like that, knowing the truth. It was only fair that he lived with his sibling. That evening, I called Amanda and went over everything I discussed earlier with you. Even though I couldn't bring Eric back with me at the time, I made frequent trips to his hometown to make sure he was okay with me being there. During this time, I cured Amanda's illness and financed her medical care. She expressed her gratitude, and I found myself warming up to her over time. What really interested me though was how Scott would react upon finally meeting his long-lost sibling for the first time. When it was time to celebrate Scott's 8th birthday, Amanda and Eric came to my house. My plans worked out perfectly. The boys I introduced them to were taken aback. "He reminds me a lot of myself, Dad. The identity of this person remains unknown," Scott yelled. Eric was too stunned and embarrassed to say anything. "You have a twin brother named Eric, son. Send him birthday greetings." The response from Scott was what I was waiting for, so I said. There was an eerie silence for a while, and it made my heart beat faster. Because of his exceptional nature, he was isolated. The only time he could see you again was on your 8th birthday, so plan accordingly. Unfortunately, I lied to my kid. Why don't you guys all celebrate your birthdays together? Because of what I said, the boys were quick to embrace. I nearly lost it as I watched them share a slice of birthday cake together. When Merlin left Eric and hid his true identity from me, I would never forgive him. The boys' reunion has brought new joy into my life. Even if they are treated differently, children born with disabilities can lead fulfilling lives. Not only are they not the same as everyone else, but they also do not deserve to be abandoned. Happy to have reunited Eric with his sibling.